Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. One of the most powerful words in the English language is no, but most people are too scared to use it. See, we've been trained to believe that saying yes is the key to success. Say yes to every opportunity, every favor, every request, and somehow life will just work itself out. But let me ask you, how's that working for you? Some of y'all are tired, worn out, frustrated. You feel like you're being pulled in 100 different directions, and deep down, you know why. It's because you haven't learned the power of no. No is not negative. No is necessary. Let me break it down for you. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're saying no to something that does. Every time you say yes to people who drain your energy, you're saying no to yourself. And listen, if you keep putting yourself last, don't be surprised when nobody puts you first. Now, I'm not saying you got to be rude. I'm not saying you need to shut every door. But you do need to set boundaries. You need to protect your peace. You need to learn that no is a full sentence. You don't owe nobody a long explanation. You don't need to apologize for choosing yourself. You ever notice how successful people don't say yes to everything? You think the greats got to where they are by agreeing to every request, every meeting, every favor? No. They focused. They protected their time. They knew that every yes had to serve a purpose. So today, I challenge you, start saying no. No to negativity, no to distractions, no to things that don't feed your soul. And when you do, you're going to see something incredible happen. You're going to have more time, more energy, more clarity, and most importantly, more room for the right opportunities to come your way. Because here's the truth. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're really saying yes to the best version of yourself. And that is the kind of power that changes lives. Thank you. Saying no is not negative, it's necessary. Many people grow up believing that saying no is a bad thing, that it makes them selfish, unkind, or difficult to deal with. Society teaches us from a young age that agreeing, complying, and going along with what others want is the polite, acceptable thing to do. But the truth is, constantly saying yes to everything and everyone is one of the fastest ways to lose control over your own life. When you don't say no when necessary, you allow yourself to be pulled in directions that do not align with your goals, your values, or your personal growth. The word no carries weight. It is a statement of self-respect, a declaration of priorities, and a shield against things that can drain your energy, waste your time, and keep you from moving forward. Many people hesitate to say no because they are afraid of disappointing others. They don't want to be seen as unhelpful or uncooperative. They fear rejection or conflict. But what they don't realize is that saying no is one of the most powerful tools for self-preservation and success. Think about all the times you have agreed to something you didn't want to do. Maybe a friend asked you for a favor that disrupted your schedule. Maybe your boss asked you to take on extra work that wasn't your responsibility. Maybe a family member pressured you into an obligation that left you feeling exhausted. In each of these moments, saying yes may have avoided discomfort in the short term, but it likely created resentment, stress, or a loss of control over your time. This is why no is necessary. It is the key to maintaining balance, protecting your mental and emotional well-being, and staying focused on what truly matters. Saying no is not about being rude, inconsiderate, or shutting people out. It's about setting boundaries. Boundaries are what allow you to navigate life with clarity and confidence. They define what you will and won't accept, what you will and won't tolerate. When you have clear boundaries, you communicate to the world that your time, energy, and priorities matter. Without them, you become a doormat for other people's needs, constantly sacrificing your own happiness and progress. One of the biggest misconceptions about saying no is that it means rejecting people outright. But saying no isn't about rejecting people. It's about rejecting situations that don't serve you. There's a huge difference. You can care about people, be generous, and still say no when necessary. You can love your family, support your friends, and still set limits on how much you can give. You can be dedicated to your job and still refuse to take on responsibilities that aren't yours. The ability to say no is what keeps you from being overwhelmed, burned out, and trapped in situations that hinder your personal growth. Fear often holds people back from using the word no. Fear of conflict, fear of missing out, fear of what others will think. But when you let fear dictate your choices, you end up living a life that isn't truly yours. You become someone who constantly puts other people's needs, expectations, and demands ahead of your own. Over time, this can lead to frustration, bitterness, and even regret. The most successful people in the world did not get to where they are by saying yes to everything. They learned how to say no to distractions, unimportant tasks, and unnecessary obligations. They understood that every yes had a cost, and they chose to invest their time and energy wisely. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is that saying no does not require an apology. You don't have to justify your decision with long explanations. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone a detailed reason for why you can't do something. Many people feel the need to soften their no with excuses, hoping to avoid conflict or guilt. But the truth is, the more you over-explain, the more room you leave for people to push back, negotiate, or convince you otherwise. Confidence in your no sends a clear message that your boundaries are firm and non-negotiable. It's also important to understand that saying no isn't just about declining requests from others. It's also about saying no to yourself. Saying no to bad habits, self-doubt, procrastination, and distractions is just as important as saying no to external demands. Personal growth requires discipline, and discipline means making tough choices. It means saying no to immediate gratification in order to achieve long-term success. It means saying no to negative influences that hold you back. It means saying no to thoughts and behaviors that do not align with the person you want to become. For example, if you are working toward a goal, whether it's building a business, improving your health, or mastering a skill, you will inevitably face temptations and distractions. Maybe friends invite you out when you should be working. Maybe you feel like skipping the gym because you're tired. Maybe you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow instead of taking action today. In these moments, your ability to say no to anything that pulls you away from your goal is what will determine your success. Saying no is not always easy, especially in a world that constantly demands more from you. But the more you practice it, the stronger you become. The more you say no to the wrong things, the more room you create for the right things. The more you enforce your boundaries, the more people will learn to respect them. Over time, you will notice a shift. You will have more time for what truly matters. You will experience less stress, less burnout, and more clarity. You will feel more in control of your life rather than feeling like you are constantly at the mercy of others' expectations. One of the greatest benefits of learning to say no is the self-confidence it builds. When you take control of your time and decisions, you develop a greater sense of self-worth. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop seeking approval from others because you realize that your own approval is enough. You start making choices that align with your values rather than choices that simply please others. This shift in mindset is what allows you to grow into the best version of yourself. It's also worth noting that the people who truly respect and care about you will understand your no. The ones who get upset, guilt trip you, or try to manipulate you into changing your mind are often the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. When you start saying no more often, you will quickly see who respects you and who only values you for what you can do for them. This can be a difficult realization, but it is a necessary part of personal growth. Saying no is an act of self-love. It is a declaration that you value yourself enough to prioritize your own well-being. It is a reminder that you do not exist solely to meet the needs and expectations of others. It is a way of ensuring that your time, energy, and resources are spent in a way that serves your purpose rather than being drained by things that do not align with your goals. Every time you say yes to the wrong thing, you are saying no to the right thing. This is one of the most overlooked truths in life. People often think that agreeing to something is harmless, that saying yes to every opportunity, every request, and every favor keeps the peace and makes them a good person. But what they don't realize is that every yes comes with a price. That price is time, energy, focus, and sometimes even happiness. When you say yes to things that do not serve you, you are actively taking away from the things that do. Life is a constant exchange. You don't get extra hours in a day just because you agreed to do something for someone else. You don't get additional energy just because you took on a commitment that wasn't meant for you. Everything you say yes to takes up space in your life, and that space is no longer available for something better. Most people struggle with this because they don't see the opportunity cost in their decisions. They assume that agreeing to one more task, one more meeting, one more obligation won't make a difference. But when you add up all the unnecessary yes moments, you begin to see just how much they are holding you back. Think about all the times you have said yes out of guilt. Maybe someone asked for a favor, and even though you knew it would disrupt your schedule, you agreed because you didn't want to seem selfish. Maybe a friend invited you to an event you weren't interested in, but you went anyway because you didn't want to disappoint them. Maybe your workplace assigned you a project outside of your role, and instead of setting boundaries, you accepted it out of fear of seeming uncooperative. In each of these scenarios, your yes wasn't just about that single moment. It had a ripple effect. The time and energy you spent on those things could have gone towards something more meaningful, something that actually aligned with your goals and aspirations. The reason people fall into this trap is because they don't view their time and energy as limited resources. They treat them as if they are infinite, as if they can stretch themselves thin without consequences. But the truth is, every unnecessary yes chips away at your ability to focus on what truly matters. Every unnecessary commitment delays your progress. Every distraction pulls you further away from the path you are meant to walk. Successful people understand this on a deep level. They are not afraid to say no because they know that their time is valuable. They know that every yes must be intentional. They don't agree to things just to please others. They don't allow guilt or obligation to dictate their decisions. Instead, they evaluate every request, every opportunity, and every commitment through a simple filter. Does this align with my goals? Does this serve my growth? Does this contribute to the life I am trying to build? If the answer is no, then their response is also no. One of the biggest challenges people face when trying to break free from the cycle of saying yes to everything is the fear of letting others down. They worry about how people will react when they start setting boundaries. They fear being perceived as selfish or unkind. But here's the truth. People who truly respect you will understand your boundary. The ones who get upset, guilt trip you, or make you feel bad for saying no are often the ones who benefited the most from your lack of boundaries. And those are the exact people you need to distance yourself from. It's also important to recognize that saying yes to the wrong things doesn't just affect you, it affects the people who truly deserve your time and attention. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are saying no to something important. You are saying no to the time you could have spent working on your dreams. You are saying no to moments with loved ones who genuinely support you. You are saying no to self-care, rest, and personal development. Think about the times when you felt overwhelmed, exhausted, or stretched too thin. How many of those moments were the result of saying yes to things you didn't really want to do? How many times did you overcommit yourself, only to realize later that you should have protected your time? The problem isn't just that you took on too much. The problem is that you didn't prioritize yourself. You didn't recognize that every choice has consequences and every yes has a hidden no attached to it. This is why learning to say no is one of the most powerful things you can do for your growth. It allows you to reclaim control over your life. It gives you the space to focus on the things that truly matter. It ensures that your time and energy are spent in ways that align with your purpose. The more intentional you become with your decisions, the more you realize how much power you actually have. You don't have to be a victim of other people's expectations. You don't have to carry the weight of obligations that aren't yours to bear. You don't have to say yes just to avoid discomfort. There is a level of freedom that comes with understanding this. When you stop feeling guilty for saying no, you start living with more clarity. You begin to see the difference between what is truly important and what is simply a distraction. You start making choices that serve your future instead of choices that just keep you busy. This shift in mindset is what separates those who move forward in life from those who stay stuck. People often say they don't have enough time to pursue their dreams, but that's not true. The time is there, they're just giving it away to the wrong things. If you take an honest look at your life, you will see that there are many things you have agreed to that you didn't have to. There are many responsibilities you have taken on that aren't actually yours. There are many obligations you have accepted out of habit, not because they were necessary. The moment you become aware of this, you have the power to change it. Saying no to the wrong things is what creates space for the right things. It allows you to invest your energy in meaningful work. It gives you the ability to focus on what truly makes you happy. It ensures that your life is not being dictated by other people's demands, but by your own vision and purpose. The people who achieve great things in life do not do so by accident. They do so by being intentional with every choice they make. They understand that every yes is an investment, and they choose to invest wisely. If you want to grow, succeed, and create the life you truly desire, you must start being mindful of what you are agreeing to. Not every opportunity is a good one. Not every request is worth your time. Not every obligation is yours to carry. The moment you start saying no to what doesn't align with your goals, you will see a shift. You will have more time, more energy, and more clarity. You will begin to attract the right opportunities because you are no longer weighed down by the wrong ones. You will start living a life that feels intentional, not reactive. It all starts with understanding that every time you say yes to the wrong thing, you are saying no to the right thing. So, the choice is always yours. Boundaries protect your peace and purpose. Many people go through life feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and unfulfilled, and they don't understand why. They think they just have too much on their plate, that life is naturally chaotic, or that they have no choice but to keep up with the demands placed on them. But in reality, much of this stress comes from a lack of boundaries. Without boundaries, you allow people to take up your time, energy, and mental space without considering whether it aligns with what you truly want and need. Boundaries are not about shutting people out or being selfish. They are about creating a structure that allows you to function at your best. When you do not set boundaries, you give others the power to dictate your life. You say yes to things that drain you, accept responsibilities that are not yours, and tolerate behaviors that disrupt your peace. Over time, this leads to resentment, burnout, and even a loss of self-identity. You start to feel like your life is no longer your own, like you are constantly living for other people's expectations instead of for yourself. This is why boundaries are necessary. They define what you will and will not accept. They give you control over your time and energy. They ensure that you are living in alignment with your purpose rather than being pulled in 100 different directions by things that do not serve you. People often struggle to set boundaries because they fear how others will react. They worry that saying no will make them seem difficult, unhelpful, or uncaring. They have been conditioned to believe that always being available, always being agreeable, and always saying yes is the key to being liked and accepted. But the truth is, people who respect you will also respect your boundaries. The ones who get upset, who try to guilt trip you, who make you feel bad for protecting your peace, those are the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. And those are the people you need to be the most careful around. One of the most common areas where boundaries are needed is in relationships. Whether it's family, friends, or romantic partners, the people closest to you have the greatest impact on your emotional well-being. If you allow them to overstep your boundaries, you will constantly feel drained and frustrated. Maybe you have family members who expect you to be available at all times, even when you have other commitments. Maybe you have friends who always come to you with their problems but never offer support in return. Maybe you have a partner who disregards your needs because they assume you will always accommodate them. In each of these cases, a lack of boundaries leads to an imbalance that can leave you feeling unappreciated and exhausted. Setting boundaries does not mean you love or care about people any less. It means you are protecting your own well-being so that you can show up as your best self in your relationships. It means you recognize that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable and should not be taken for granted. It means you are willing to have difficult conversations and enforce limits, even if it makes others uncomfortable, because the reality is, if someone truly values you, they will want what is best for you. They will respect your boundaries, even if it requires them to adjust their expectations. Another area where boundaries are essential is in the workplace. Many people feel overwhelmed by work, not because they have too much to do, but because they have not set clear boundaries. They answer emails at all hours, take on extra tasks without pushback, and allow their jobs to consume their personal lives. They fear that saying no will make them seem lazy or uncommitted, so they keep pushing themselves beyond their limits. But the truth is, no one will set boundaries for you. If you do not protect your time, people will continue to take as much of it as you allow. If you do not advocate for yourself, you will constantly feel undervalued and overworked. Setting workplace boundaries means recognizing your limits and communicating them clearly. It means establishing a clear separation between work and personal life. It means understanding that just because you are capable of doing more does not mean you should. When you allow work to consume you, you have nothing left for yourself, your loved ones, or your personal growth. And when you burn out, you are no good to anyone. Not your employer, not your coworkers, and certainly not yourself. Boundaries are also critical when it comes to personal goals and self-care. Many people put themselves last because they feel obligated to put everything and everyone else first. They neglect their health, passions, and personal development because they are too busy fulfilling the expectations of others. But if you do not set boundaries around your time and energy, you will never have the space to work on the things that truly matter to you. Think about how often you have planned to do something for yourself. Maybe start a new fitness routine, work on a creative project, or spend time resting, only to let it fall apart because someone else needed you. Maybe you agreed to help a friend with a favor that took longer than expected. Maybe you stayed late at work instead of going home to relax. Maybe you felt guilty for prioritizing yourself, so you put your own needs on the back burner. These small choices add up over time, and before you know it, you have spent years putting yourself last. The key to maintaining personal boundaries is understanding that your needs matter. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And if you are constantly giving away your time and energy without replenishing it, you will eventually burn out. Setting boundaries means carving out time for yourself it means making your personal goals a priority. It means recognizing that you do not need permission to take care of yourself. Boundaries are not just about saying no, they are also about enforcing consequences. Many people set boundaries but fail to uphold them because they fear confrontation. They tell someone they cannot do something, but when that person pushes back, they cave in. They say they need space, but when someone disregards that request, they let it slide. A boundary without enforcement is just a suggestion, and if people see that you do not stand by your boundaries, they will continue to overstep them. Holding boundaries means being firm in your decisions. If you say no to something, stand by it. If someone disrespects your limits, address it. If a situation continuously drains your energy, remove yourself from it. People will only respect your boundaries as much as you respect them yourself. If you show that your limits are flexible, people will test them. But if you make it clear that your boundaries are non-negotiable, people will learn to respect them. Another important aspect of boundaries is learning to let go of guilt. Many people struggle with setting limits because they feel bad for putting themselves first. They worry that saying no will make them seem uncaring or selfish. But guilt is not a valid reason to sacrifice your well-being. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions, and you are not obligated to meet every demand placed on you. The people who matter will understand and respect your need for boundaries. The ones who don't may try to make you feel guilty, but that is a reflection of their own entitlement, not your responsibility. When you set boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. You show them that you value yourself, that your time is important, and that your peace is not something you are willing to compromise. It takes time to get comfortable with setting and enforcing boundaries, but once you do, you will notice a significant difference in your life. You will feel more in control, more focused, and more at peace. You will no longer feel obligated to say yes to things that do not serve you. You will no longer allow others to dictate your time and energy. You will begin to live in a way that aligns with your purpose rather than constantly bending to the expectations of others.